Have you ever wondered why people can't seem to agree on what to call the world's most popular game? Maybe you're a new fan of the sport and you're not sure what you want to call it. Some call it soccer, most call it football. Two words, one game. To understand where these two names, soccer and football, both come from and why some people call it one thing and others call it another, we have to rewind the clock and travel back in time. It all starts in the 1800s, the birthplace of modern football, England. During that time, various forms of football were played across the UK. And here's where it gets a little confusing. In many places, football referred to a game where players used their feet to move a ball around. In some places, it looked a little more like rugby, and in other places, the game that we know and love today. But in 1863, things started to change. That's when the Football Association in England was formed. It created a standardized set of rules to distinguish their version of the game from other types, especially rugby football, which involved more physical contact and carrying the ball. Their version became known as association football to separate it from rugby football. You see, people in England didn't want to have to use these long names to talk about sport with one another, so naturally they shortened it all down. Rugby football became known as rugger, while association football was affectionately shortened to the term soccer. They took the word association from association football, abbreviated it to ASSOC, ASOC, and threw a suffix ER at the end. Yes, what I'm saying is it was the Brits who invented the term soccer. And for a while, soccer and football were words that were just used interchangeably. In the 20th century, as popularity of association football spread across the globe, most countries just referred to it as football. But in the early 1900s, the word soccer stuck around in places where other types of football were already well established. In the United States, for example, American football, a very different game involving throwing and tackling, was rising in popularity. To avoid confusion between the two sports, people started calling association football soccer. And that name just kind of stuck. The same thing happened in places like Canada, where Canadian football, another variation of the game, was becoming more and more popular. In Australia, rugby was the dominant football game. And so calling association football soccer was easier to avoid mix-ups and confusion. Believe it or not, even in England, the name soccer was commonly used up until the 1980s. In countries like Brazil, Argentina, Spain, and Germany, where association football became a national passion, football was and still is the only term they needed. The game became part of their identity and they embraced the global term. So today, most of the world calls it football, and it's not just a game, it's part of their culture. And some people wonder, why don't Americans just get on the same page as everyone else and call it football? Well, it's about history and habit. You see, American football developed its own following and rules and culture. Calling it soccer became a convenient way to distinguish between the two sports. I will say this, soccer is rising in popularity here in the United States, and I'm gonna do a whole nother video on that at a later point, but fact of the matter is, it's becoming more and more common to hear the term football thrown around when referring to soccer. One thing is clear, whether you call it soccer or football, the love for the game is universal. It's the same 90 minutes of passion, strategy, and skill. Soccer, football, call it what you want. In the end, we're all united by the same beautiful game. If you made it this far, congrats, you made it to the end of the video. I appreciate it. If you could do me a favor, hit that like button, drop a comment down below, and most importantly, hit that subscribe button. We've got tons of ideas. Can't wait to share them with you. Yeah, thanks for being here. Peace.